Sure. Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Thank you so much. And if you want to share your slides, and Rodolphe will be joined later by his friend Marco, but he'll kick us off. Everything good today, Rodolfo? Rodolphe?
Everything good? Can you see my? I'm
Yeah,
just making
yeah.
sure that everything's
You
correct.
you look great. Take it away. Explain to us all about this. Thank you.
Perfect. So, hello, everyone. Yes, we're going to talk about fintechs and how fintechs use APIs to go faster to market and then to increase their revenue. I'm Rodolphe Darves-Bornoz, the CEO of Sipios. When we first started Sipios, it was back in 2017. The NPS, the Net Promoter Score of the industry in France, was of -3, and we aim at raising the level of the whole industry at NPS 60. And when I mean industry, I mean the fintech industry. So that's quite a challenge. And how do we do that? How do we achieve this? Well, we do product conception, project delivery, and software development for our clients. And we work with entrepreneurs, we work with scale-ups such as Qonto, and we're going to talk about Qonto Sunday, and we work with large companies as well, like France, for instance. So in the last years, we've seen a crazy acceleration in the fintech scene. Of course, you've witnessed it as well. And a way we explain this is because on comparable projects we did at Sipios, we see that there is a huge reduction in time between the time you start to build a project to the time you generate the first euro. And the first project we did was 28 weeks before we managed to generate this first euro. It was a robo-advisor for a large bank in France. It was at the very beginning of Sipios, so almost 5 years ago. And last year we built a lending platform during the COVID crisis in 3 weeks only. And the main reason we see for the reduction of this lead time or time to money is, well, on the first project we did everything on custom for the project, and the last one we did was mostly based on APIs. So we went from the core banking system as a service, electronic signature, ID recognition, KYC, and stuff. So this is the way we help our clients and how we witnessed the reduction of time to market. The consequence of this is that there are much more fintechs today, much more players on the field today than they used to have years ago. And only in the last 11 months, we've seen 5,000 new fintechs in the field. So more and more products are popping, and we know now that 20% of the market of players are less than 15 years old. So there is a lot of people in the field, a lot of people on the market, pretty much all aiming at the same pie. How do they split? How does the market look like? Basically, we see two branches. One is infrastructure providers. They're creating all the bricks necessary to operate. It goes from CBS to account aggregators, payment, KYC, etc. And client experience players. They are the one building on top of these services, and they are building propositions that end customers love. Obviously, they connect with these services through APIs. Part of their stack is homemade, home built. Usually, they rely on these infrastructure to go faster to market. So this setup reduces time to first euro, but in the long run, where does the money go? How does the split go between these two kind of players? When we take a step back and look at the big picture in tech, what we realize is that you can have big successes in both areas. And obviously, you know these logos. The tendency, however, is that end user experience players tend to capture most of the value. If you look at the evolution of the market cap of these players in the last 5 years, you'll see that the end user and client experience players capture most of the value. And if you've read the news lately, you've seen that there is this huge negotiation going on between Amazon and Visa in the UK. Visa trying to raise prices and Amazon being able to say no because they have well, volume, and they have the market power to say no to an infrastructure players such as Visa. So even if there will be successes in both areas, we're confident about that. There won't be only winners. And the question is, how do you personally navigate in these spaces, and what choices do you make? And what we're seeing is that if you're an infrastructure provider, then eventually you're on a high volume, low margin business. So the fight for margin is going to be tough, and eventually your game is probably to integrate as much services as you can. So the use of external APIs is going to be a temporary solution. So you launch quickly, but you replace it in order to increase your margins. On the other hand, if you're an end user experience player, then your game is to connect to more and more services, become a central node in an ecosystem, and there won't be room for everybody. So that's the trend we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing the Revolut, the Lydias of this world that just raised and became a unicorn yesterday, by the way. So that trend is to connect to more and more APIs, more and more services to become the entry point in the ecosystem, and that's pretty much what Qonto is doing at the moment. And we're fortunate to have Marco, the CPO, with us, and I'll hand it over to him to see how they do it at CPO at Qonto.
Thanks, Rodolphe. Hello, everyone. So I'm just gonna take over the screen sharing. And to introduce myself quickly before I start, I'm the CPO, Chief Product Officer at Qonto. And I'm gonna start by explaining you what is Qonto very quickly, but my goal today is really to reflect on what Rodolphe just said and give you some real example of how we tried to navigate in this space that is more and more crowded, and how we are trying to use these interconnections between all the financial tools to drive value and revenue for Qonto. So first, so that you know a bit more about Qonto. So Rodolphe, I think you still have the end on the slide, if I'm not mistaken. No, really sorry about that. So yeah, so just to talk about Qonto very quickly, some of you might know us as being a neobank for SMBs. Because that's how we launched 4 years ago in 2017. And at this time, that was true. What we were trying to do was building the best business account for SMBs in France. But then we started to evolve. We went from very few clients to more than 200,000 clients today. And we went from 1 country to 4 countries. We are today in France, Italy, Spain, and Germany. But more importantly, we went from being a business account, from being a solution that tried to incorporate all your financial needs within the same platform. What does it mean? It means that what we see, what you probably all see, is that SMBs now rely on more and more SaaS to handle their finances. They will have their business account, but on top of that, they will have their spend management tool, they will have their bookkeeping tool, their cash flow management tool. And it's painful because, well, they have different SaaS to handle. They have to go from one to another. They have to passport data, transaction, document from one and to another platform. And it's costly because they need to have a subscription for each and every one of these solutions. So we know that it's a pain, and our aim is to really create this all-in-one platform solution. But guess why? We are not the only one to try to do that. And so there is a fierce competition in this area. That's the first thing. The second thing is, even if we have everything under the same roof, some people will still want to use really pure players on some verticals. Like they want pure players on bookkeeping, for instance. And finally, last problem that we face trying to build this all-in-one solution is that it takes time. It takes time because if you want to build everything in-house, well, you have to invest time in building it, developing it, etc. So this is not something that we can provide overnight to our customers. So in the meantime, our strategy relies on something else, something that we call Connect. And our goal is to be the most connected finance tool in the ecosystem. So we launch our marketplace. That's what we call Connect. And what we're trying to provide to our users is as many integration as possible so that they can use seamlessly all their tools, all their financial stack together. We don't want their financial stack not to talk together. We think that we are going to be the central node of this stack because we are handling the transaction as the business account. And we want to make sure that with this transaction and all the data that enters Qonto, our customers are free to do whatever they want and can seamlessly use all the rest of their financial stack. So this is what we are building at Qonto. And what I'm trying to talk about, I'm going to try to talk about now, is to give you two examples on what we do exactly in terms of integration and what we tried to monetize that. It is important, it is costly for us to develop. And so our key point here is how do we try to drive revenue thanks to this marketplace and all this interconnectivity that we create. Small disclaimer, we tried many things. I'm not going to talk about everything that we tried. I'm going to focus on two use cases, two types of approach that we had to drive revenue thanks to this approach. The very first one is quite straightforward and that you can see in very different or many different fintech is let's do premium integrations. What are premium integrations? They are deep integration that we will build with a privileged partner. So one example that I'm taking here is the integration that we built with Payfit. So Payfit is a payroll management tool. And we had one painful use case for all our customers at Qonto is how do I easily and securely pay my employees at the end of the month. So basically you have somewhere in some payroll management tool or on a Google Sheet, somewhere you have all the list of all your employees with the salary at the end of each month, and at the end of each month, sorry. And the question is how do I import this list, export this list, re-import it in my bank account tool, and then pay my employees. This can be error prone because wow, each time you will download something and re-upload it, you might have some issues with the format. It can be very time consuming if you have to do a rework to make sure that it's compatible. And so what we built with Payfit was a one-click button within the Payfit interface so that you can pay all your employees in 10 seconds. So we built that. It's really straightforward. You go on Payfit, you click on a button, you connect to your Qonto account, and boom, all the transfers are done. So here, the value for the user is quite straightforward. You have no mistake. You cannot make any mistake. What is in Payfit will end up in Qonto, and you win hours every month of useless bureaucratic tasks that you used to do manually. So now if I reflect on that from a business standpoint, the business model is quite straightforward. For this kind of integration, what we do is say, okay, if you want to access this Payfit Qonto integration, you have to upsell to a higher price plan. So we have different price plans on Qonto, and we say, okay, this one is limited only to premium users, meaning that you need to pay at least 10 euros a month to access this integration. To give you some insight about that, it works well because the value for the users of Payfit and Qonto is big. So it's really providing a lot of value to our users. That being said, the problem with this kind of integration is that it costs a lot to develop because first you will have to do some custom development on your side. On top of that, your partner will have to do the same. You will have all the synchronization work to be done. So it is costly. And the second problem is that you target not your customer base, but you target a subsegment of your customer base and your partner customer base. So at the end of the day, it brings value to the users, but it's really hard to drive very high volume revenue with this kind of integration. At least this is our learning for now. So we are super happy to have this kind of integration, but at the end of the day, it's not truly driven by revenue. Like the decision to do them is not really driven by revenue. It's more to increase NPS or to create a sense of delight for some of our customers. So this is something we tried. And then we also tried another model, a model that is more in the world of, okay, let's try to have a coverage of integration that is as big as possible, as large as possible. What we want to do is not to do tailor-made integration for each partner, but we will build an API that is standardized, works well for 90% of the use case of what can be done within Qonto. And we are going to leverage partnerships so that they integrate Qonto, or we are going to leverage automation software like Zapier, Integromat, Trade.io, so that our users can instantly do all the integration they want with all their financial stack or all their productivity tools. That's what we did. And today, thanks to this approach, you can use Qonto with thousands and thousands of tools. So let me give you an example. Very straightforward. Your bookkeeping tool, for instance, QuickBooks or Pennylane, you connect to them within Qonto Connect, and automatically all your transactions and all your receipts will be sent to them. You don't have to download, re-upload them on these tools. Super straightforward. Again, no mistake, and you gain time. But you can also do way more things now. For instance, we have some people that will use the Notion integration so that each time they have a transaction on Qonto, they have this transaction on Notion, and then on Notion, they can tag it, they can share it, they can give visibility to their associate or whatever. Some will use Drive so that each time they attach a receipt on Qonto, this receipt is sent to Drive, and then they send a notification to their accountant saying, hey, I just uploaded something to Drive. So this is the kind of use case that we see, that we see emerging. And the good thing with that is that we cover way more use cases, and most importantly, we rely on our customers' intelligence to find new use cases. The good thing with that, so the drawback of that is that it's super hard to sell integration by integration. You cannot say people, hey, you will pay 10 euros to have this integration because at the end, we didn't put enough effort and it's not premium enough. But what we see is that it clearly increases the stickiness of our users, because once you belong to the financial stack of your user, once you are really within their ecosystem and all their tools are interconnected, then they will not churn. And this will increase the lifetime value of your customers by reducing the churn. So this is one approach that we have that works very well. On top of that, it creates a lot of word to mouth. It creates a lot of possibilities to communicate on your product, because each time you have someone that integrates you, well, you can do shared communication. So this is the model that we have today. And when we reflect on our two approaches, premium integration or this one where we try to maximize the coverage with this kind of tools, clearly this is the way we try to go at Qonto, because we find that this is where we have the most value for our users. So this was very quickly two different approaches that we had, trying to give you some insight of how it worked. And I believe that in a world where we will have more and more fintech, this second approach will make even more sense, because it will become too complex to have a tailor-made integration for each and every of the tools that your customers want to use. And you will never be able to constrain them to use a specific tool. So that was it for the deep dive on the Qonto use case and for our presentation. So if you want to contact us, you have our emails. And now I will hand over the mic for the Q&A session.
Okay, thank you all so much. Definitely get in touch with everyone and connect. Oh, I think Marco left. Come on back if he's back for the Q&A, or maybe you're only doing it, Rodolphe. That was very good because it gives us a good basis of fintech, and then up next we'll have a good primer for data, and we're just sticking, and then on API delivery pipeline. So we're just sticking with like the real, like giving people the good primer for everything. Welcome back, Marco. Beautiful background. So I was looking up, because my understanding is, how often are people changing banks? Is it something that's changed that much recently? Because it used to be one of those things that you had the bank, like I still have in the US. Obviously, I have new banks from living in Spain and the UK, but I don't really change. I have the same bank I had when I got my first job at 16 in the US still, though TD Bank has great service, but like I have HSBC here and it's meh, but I've never felt moved to change. What is moving people to make changes, and how is API delivering either the motivation to change or stay?
I can take this one.
Yeah, I should take this one, at least for the
Right.
the B2B approach, maybe.
All right. So yeah, I'm gonna answer for the B2B approach, and if you want to compete for the B2C. So basically, what make people change their bank? It's rarely something that is thought from a long time. Like clearly, what happens is it's not like I have a bank and then I'm going to check if I cannot find something better. That does not happen this way. The way it happens is, for the third time in a row, I had a problem with my transfer. And for the third time in a row, I had someone at my bank that was not able to answer me. So basically, I just hang up the phone. I go on Google and say, okay, what is the best bank for SMBs? And then I try to do the register for a neobank because I can do it online in 5 minutes. And then I'm hooked. So it's not. It's really okay. I'm really disappointed by my bank, and there is something that really triggers the move. The one thing that is too much. So that's how it happens most of the time. And yeah, that's the main thing. The second thing is you have a huge change of in terms of financial situation. So you receive a lot of money, and you're like, okay, this bank
but most people, that's not for most people. Maybe on this call, it is a tech thing, but that situation is probably the majority of what most banks care about, but the minority in this. But for the other one, so as long as banks just don't piss off, they provide minimum service. How are the APIs then making that difference?
You take it or I take it, Rodolphe?
Go ahead.
So it makes a difference because not having an API can be the one thing that will create this moment where the bank creates too much friction for you. Like, okay, for instance, I'm using this very new spend management tool. That's cool. But then I want to import all the transfer that I created on this tool to my bank. And guess what? It doesn't work because the format I'm using doesn't work on the bank. Calling customer support, they have no idea how IT works. Now I'm like, okay, that's too much. I want something more modern that works with my modern stack. Okay. So API, or that connects to my bookkeeping tool with this new bookkeeping tool that I'm using. So yeah, not having an API can create a lot of frustration for the user. So that's the same logic at the end.
So in the end, yeah, go Rodolphe, please.
So I think the main difference between the professionals and individuals is the recurrence of the usage. So when you have friction as a professional, you have friction every day. So you're really asking for you really need a change. As an individual, you're more prone to changing banks when you actually have what we usually call a moment of life, which means either you're starting your studies, or you're going to the university, or you're buying your first apartment, or you're and getting a loan, or you're buying you're having a kid, and you're thinking now I should prepare for the long term. And these moments are the moments banks are targeting in the retail industry. In the individual, not professional industry.
That's very interesting. They're two very different things. The B2C is very planned purchases and moments of life change, and then the B2B is clearly shit's hitting the fan and impulse purchases, which is funny because obviously impulse purchases are larger. Okay, thanks. Okay. Yeah, I think that's very interesting what's happening with banks. Who do you think is the traditional bank that is doing the most interesting things with APIs?
Well, at the moment, well, we're working a lot with BPI France, and I think there is a talk this afternoon about how they do green and they use APIs to work on green IT. I really like the way they are agnostic of I mean, they don't want to build everything themselves and rely a lot on the ecosystem. I think in France, they are the one that I've seen the most active in this field. I don't know, Marco, if you're thinking of someone or of a company. I mean, I guess you're more focused on yourself, but maybe you have
exactly. Now, in the world of traditional bank, I cannot see one that really stands out in terms of API-based practices.
I'd say BBVA probably in Spain is really strong.
Awesome, great to hear. Thanks y'all so much. We really appreciated this, and hopefully it helps a lot of people. So thank you.